use of surplus farmside lands. If there's any doubt why we're all here, we're here for your ideas. And we've got a tremendous opportunity here where we're going to be getting some lands. It's not if we're going to get it, it's we're going to get it, become a tremendous asset to the whole municipality. And we're here on the ground floor of trying to figure out what we're going to do with those lands, what would best benefit the community. So I want to welcome everyone here. We are being streamed on Facebook Live, and there's a Zoom link on the municipality's page. So we're going to be collecting those comments, those suggestions, and all will go into our community consultation. It's been suggested, before I go any further, that I let people know where the washrooms are. So if you have that inclination, they're down that hallway as far as you can go, then to the right, and then almost an immediate right, so if you need that. So we'll get on. First I'm Charlie Boland. I'm the moderator tonight. I'll let you know what brought me here. My family and I have lived in Kentville for the last 10 years. Like many of you, probably all of you, I'm involved in the community. We have, the municipality has a Community and Economic Development Advisory Committee. I'm the chair of that. And while I live in Kentville, I work at the Winchester Hospital. In my career in healthcare, I've been involved in a lot of community conversations. So that's what brings me here. So we have some more introductions to do, but before that, I just want to recognize the land that we are on with a land acknowledgement. The municipality of North Grenville acknowledges that the municipality operates on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe. We honor the historic relationship of the Haudenosaunee and Huron-Wendat peoples to this land. We recognize all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who now call North Grenville their home. We respect and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship with all Indigenous peoples, and we look forward to continuing this conversation and fostering the path toward reconciliation. So while I get this, so now what's ahead of us this evening? We're in the introduction stage, and we'll have a few more introductions. All of us are here with the understanding that we've got some potential lands, some lands coming to us of indeterminate size, and we need some ideas what to do with that. So we want to make sure everyone has the same amount of information. So we're going to provide you with that information tonight before we get started on the ideas. The next part is where you come in. We'll be breaking out into different groups and soliciting your ideas, getting your ideas on a variety of topics. And then just to know that we're not here just to talk tonight for the sake of talking, there will be some next steps, and we'll tell you about that. Now, obviously, as we've seen out front, these lands are somewhat associated with the correctional facility, which is a very emotionally charged topic. We obviously respect everyone's opinion, pro, for, against, or anywhere in between. But tonight is about these lands. It's not about the correctional facility. There's a couple ways you can look at it. If the correctional facility comes to pass, we'll get a portion of these lands. If for some reason it doesn't happen, we'll get all the land. So our topic tonight is to look after these lands and come up with some ideas. So wherever you are in that spectrum of opinion, we just respectfully ask that we don't talk about the correctional facility tonight. That's a time for another forum, another conversation. Our focus will be on idea generations for this tremendous community asset we're going to have. So just since we're here and I've introduced myself, we'll have some other introductions, and I'm not sure if everyone is here. Tonight isn't specifically about the campus, but we are a guest tonight of the campus. So is Liz Sutherland here? I was going to introduce our new executive director of the campus, Liz Sutherland, but she's not here. But we have many municipal representatives, and just ask you to stand up or wave your hand. Mayor Nancy Peckford. Our newest councillor, Debbie Wilson. Councillor John Barkley. Councillor Doreen Sullivan. And Councillor Kristen Strachan. And then we have some staff who are here to support tonight and have also done a lot of work behind the scenes. So we have Gary Dyke, our Chief Administrative Officer, back there. Hilary Janot, right here, who's helped us an awful lot. She's Director of Corporate Strategy. Jill Sturdy, who's in Corporate Media. I've lost track of everyone. There she is. Keena Boyce, who's Assistant to the Chief Administrative Officer. Tammy Hurlbert, Recreation Coordinator. And Julie DeBoer, Social Media Coordinator. Thank you for that. Now, so that's almost everybody, but let's find out who all of you are. No, we're not going to get up and tell everyone's name, but just curious about the groups. You know, this was initially thought of as to be all about agriculture on these lands. Is anyone from the agricultural community, farming background? Just welcome. How about horticulture, botany, double threat. Arts and culture, anyone from that community? Great. How about education? Okay, we got lots. Anyone from the equine community, equestrian? I say that because we have part of these facilities are the former show arena, so that's a possibility. Any students here? I know there are some. Okay. Oh, they're hiding over there. Anyone from the business community? Great. And if I've missed anyone, is anyone that's just a proud resident of North Grenville and come here out of interest? Wonderful, everyone. So welcome, everyone. So as I mentioned, now is the time to get a real foundation of what the opportunity is, what the situation is. So we'll have someone who knows this firsthand. I'll nod. There we go. Oh, one back. Anyway, someone who needs no introduction, we've already introduced her, Mayor Nancy Beckford.
Thank you. I'm here with council colleagues, of course, and my job is to give you a quick 15-minute overview of where things are at. So obviously, we're here tonight because we have a relative degree of confidence that we will, in fact, be acquiring some of these lands. We will have jurisdiction over some of the surplus farmside lands. As things evolve over the next year, I'm going to ask Charlie to help me figure out. There we go. That's why Charlie is here. And I'd like to also, of course, thank Charlie for agreeing to preside over this session, because it's really about the community. It's not really about North Grenville. But as you know, as many of you will be aware, when this council was elected, certainly, back in 2018, the municipality had just acquired the Kentville Campus. So the Kentville Campus lands obviously include a number of buildings. There are some kids tonight who actually go to school on the campus that belong to Councillor Strachan and I, but we have 4 boards on the campus currently, lots of service and other community organizations, daycares, Service Ontario that many of you would know. And in fact, what the campus says to us, the Kentville Campus says to us, is that they're at 80% occupancy. And I know Dermot O'Farrell, there he is. Mr. O'Farrell is here tonight. He is vice chair of the now fully independent, well-established Kentville Campus board. So they are really working hard to pursue a very, I think, exciting vision for the Kentville Campus lands. Those lands also include, of course, 626 acres of croplands, wetlands, an agroforestry center, and trails that I think many of us enjoy, et cetera. So that's, the story in terms of campus side. We'll just go to the next slide. So there you go. So you've got 630 acres, in fact. A small number of acres is owned by the French Public School, but everything else is under the direct jurisdiction of the campus. Obviously, in terms of talking about surplus lands on the farm side, this is a parcel of land that the province retained subsequent to the municipality acquiring what we now call the campus. Of course, campus was obviously for 100 years Kentville College. The Farmside lands was a parcel of land, just under 200 acres, that was not acquired by the municipality when they purchased the campus lands, what we now call campus lands. And those are the lands that are obviously the subject of tonight's discussion. We'll just move on. So, as no surprise to anyone in this room, as you're aware, we got news in August 2020 that the province was intending to build a provincial correctional facility on these Farmside lands. What was interesting, I think, for us is after this council got elected, we did pursue a number of different opportunities to potentially use those lands as a municipality, and both private and public interest sort of emerged to look at what we could do with those lands. But unfortunately, at the time, Premier Ford had declared that they were going to look at all the surplus lands in Ontario that were provincial lands to see how they could be better utilized potentially for other purposes. And, despite our kind of repeated efforts to potentially pursue acquisition or long-term lease of those Farmside lands, we, at the time, were told by the province that they were sort of on hold, if you will. That brings us to August 2020, when the province obviously announced its decision about how it would use some of those lands. So since that time, council has been very preoccupied with how much land are they using, how much is left, and what can we do with it? Because again, being such a large parcel of land, we've come to learn that the footprint of the correctional facility we're approximating right now is about 50 acres. That's sort of our understanding right now, is that the correctional facility, should it come to pass, and we've been given absolutely no indication that it won't come to pass, will occupy about 50 acres. But that leaves over 100 acres that we have insisted on in a variety of meetings with support, incidentally, obviously from Minister Clark, as well as the Ministry of the Solicitor General. That gives us a lot of opportunity to see what we can do with what we're calling surplus or remaining lands. And, I've had a number of meetings and with the ministry, as has Mr. Dyke, and all of, all indications point to the fact that we will have jurisdiction over these lands one way or another. So the surplus lands, and I know the lighting isn't great here, but you can see that the blue ribbon on sort of the upper hand side of the map to your right is where the correctional facility is slated to go. But in the blue, this is a very rough sort of visual illustration of what we expect to have access to. Notably, there's a plot of land south of College, and I think there are people in this room who are very familiar with that plot of land. Notably, the Ministry of Solicitor General has said very clearly they don't expect to touch those lands. In fact, they're not at play at all in the ministry's plans as it relates to the correctional facility. So that plot of land to the sort of south, if you will, and then around there's a very large buffer around the correctional facility. The blue highlighting doesn't really do it justice because it's actually a little bit larger than what you see here, but we wanted to illustrate for you what we're dealing with. On the other side, of course, of County Road 44 is Kentville Campus. So that's where you see those 626 acres, again, of lands that we have complete control over. They're our lands. They're being ably managed by a very competent board of community leaders, and we really look forward to seeing what they bring to life beyond what's already happening on the lands. So you can see where the surplus lands are, and obviously, they're connected to the community by virtue of proximity, by virtue of access to County Road 44, and we obviously are here this evening to get some of your ideas on how we can pursue community-driven agricultural related initiatives for that land. It's not lost on anyone, particularly me. I was chair of the campus board for 2 years, the interim board. We are very excited about opportunities to pursue agricultural agricultural and related initiatives on both the campus side, and Dermot knows all about that, as well as on the Farmside land. The good news about the Farmside land is that these are lands that we can use for community benefit. The campus is under massive pressure to ensure that, you know, at the end of the day, it generates a profit. It's not a burden to the municipality because we paid for those lands. Obviously, in terms of Farmside, if we're able to acquire them, there's more flexibility with how we might use them in the long term. Next slide. So this is the vision. It's right there, community green space that supports education, food production, food security, recreation. Of course, Charlie, mentioned equine. There is a large barn there that had great value to this community. Some of the buildings we expect will be retained, no matter what happens in terms of the correctional facility, economic development, and environmental sustainability. So that's really, the vision in terms of what we think could happen there. But of course, it does rely on partnerships. It relies on the community really thinking about what would be valuable, what are North Grenville's priorities, and how can we work, I would say across sectors, across governments to really bring those lands to life, to also bring some of those remaining buildings back to life that unfortunately haven't been used very much since the closure of the college. Oh, Hillary's doing it. I apologize, Hillary. I didn't think that was you. Okay, as you can see, we've got the themes of education on the campus side, that's very well established, but it's not to say that some of these surplus lands couldn't be used to really animate, some of those agricultural foundational pieces that even, my children, I think, wouldn't have had any exposure to. So how do we use surplus lands in partnership with the community to really reveal, certainly to our community and to the region, what some of the, proactive, modern sort of agricultural practices are that contribute to things like food security, that support local food production. We know how critical that is since COVID has really, I think, threatened some of our supply chains. There's also the question of environmental sustainability. When the college was founded 100 years ago, part of the intention of the college was to teach and ensure that there was a resource for local farmers to farm land well. It's not the only thing that can happen on the surplus farmside lands, but we're certainly cognizant that these are areas where we could potentially do some very exciting things. Health, wellness, and recreation, of course, would always, I think, be a tenet of whatever we were doing, especially outdoors on what was previously agricultural lands. And then, of course, there's just the question of economic development. How can these farmlands be part of our, I think, community economic development in ways that I think really reflect the needs of the community, that are synergistic with what's happening on the Kentville Campus side, where, there's a growing presence, for example, of apprenticeship programs that are bringing youth and underemployed adults into sort of the ag trades writ large. And there's much more to say about that, but we're not going to talk about the campus tonight. But of course, all of this, relies on community partnerships, and that's why we wanted to have this first meeting. This meeting is being streamed, so it's not just about who's in the room tonight, but we certainly do want to get the benefit of your thoughts and ideas of where you think some of the gaps are, where are the needs, where's the energy and some of the momentum for these lands as they, certainly come, as they're turned over, to the municipality, which, we expect to happen within the year. This is just a very quick list. These partners have not said yes to partnership, but we've identified some of these groups and have had some preliminary discussions with some of these organizations that are listed here, just so we can give you a sense of, I think, the depth and breadth of who could, in fact, come to the table. This is not narrow in terms of its focus. I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of value in really thinking about the different demographics in our community, everything from those early years kids, daycare kids on the campus, all the way to our seniors community who may not have access to community gardens or horticultural spaces, but still bring a lot of passion and expertise. So how can we marry different constituencies really for full community benefit? We're in no way denying, as Charlie said, that there's real concern about the correctional facility, but really the reality is that we fully expect to have these Farmside lands that are not being used by the Ministry of the Solicitor General. We value consultation. It's something that we felt was very important well ahead of when we secure these lands in the fullest sense. So we really wanted to hear from you because we understand that obviously there's frustration around a lack of consultation with the correctional facility itself, and it's important to us at this stage that we get the benefit of some of your early thinking so that moving forward as plans materialize, we're really sort of influenced and grounded in what you think would be worthwhile. I think that's really it. Charlie, at this stage, this is obviously the first step. It's early days. For those who are watching, I think we wanted to encourage them, anyone who's watching, or if you go home tonight and you think I didn't say everything I wanted to say, there is a survey online that anyone can complete. It's well featured on our North Grenville website. It'll be part of the communication materials that come out of tonight's meeting. So please take the time to share the survey. And really, don't hold back tonight. This is really about giving us your best ideas. They may be out of the box. Not all of them, of course, I think we'll be able to pursue, but it's really important that we get the benefit of some of your thinking as it is today. And as we get more information and have more opportunities to continue this conversation, we certainly will. There you go.
So just to clarify, either Mayor or maybe Gary, on the lands, potential is a show arena. There's another barn, I think. And then in terms of the amount of land, on the low end, it might be 40 acres. On the high end, it could be considerably higher than that. Have I got that right?
Yes. I would like a bit more clarification around the amount of land and whereabouts it is located.
Sure. I'm going to give that to you. Okay. Well, Hillary, if we could go back to that slide.
Can you repeat the question? Because
Oh, indeed.
Very good. So just, you go ahead.
No.
The question is to clarify where the lands might be and potentially how much land we have. And I already know the answer to part of that, but I'll let you go ahead.
So the indications we've gotten from the ministry to date is that they expect, right now, certainly they expect to use approximately 50 acres. So remember, this parcel is almost 200 acres. It's 192 acres, if I'm not mistaken. So, we're guesstimating at this point that there could be over 100 acres that are available to us. Again, this is where we're at today. Those numbers could shift. Maybe it's 60 acres from the ministry. They're still doing their homework, and until the tender is issued, and some of that information about how the facility will be located on the lands is finalized. We're working with the information we have now. And Gary, I don't know if you want to add anything, so you tell me, but certainly there's a parcel that's south of College that the ministry doesn't expect to have any impact on. So that's the bottom blue section. And then the top section, sort of that top half, where you see that blue highlighting, is also a fairly sizable parcel of land that would buffer the correctional facility, which we expect at this stage, given everything we've been told up to now, would go towards the back of those lands, so close to the 416. Does that help?
Yes. Could you just clarify what about the Dell Road?
So is this fair to summarize? We're very certain we're getting some land. We know we'll have access to the southern part, but the rest, all we can say is a range, right? We don't know the exact specifics of it. We can't be any more certain, right at this point anyway. Councillor Solomon?
Correct.
Can you maybe mic the audience and
Sure.
the audience and one up?
And I think what Doreen was clarifying, and Gary, I think we have this right, is that this parcel of land. So those lands are privately held. They're not part of what the ministry, what the province, rather, province of Ontario retained once Kentville College closed. So that is off the table. It was never owned, or certainly to my knowledge, it's been privately held for quite some time. So what's at play in terms of the lands that the province of Ontario owns now is that blue bottom strip. That's part of that
So,
illustration.
questions about specifically the land?
Correct, south of College. I would say high confidence for both. It's just a question of how much.
Okay.
Okay,
we'll ask. I think that answer pretty much covered the question. So
Indeed.
Okay.
I just want to confirm my understanding of this. There's 182 acres that have been designated, and that's surrounded by the red dashed line. Is that correct?
Correct.
Of those, your guess, based on what I heard you to say, Mayor
Information
Peckford,
today.
is you've been preoccupied on this for some time, that up to 132 acres will be deemed surplus. Is that correct?
Up to.
And is that more than the blue you've marked out? Because it seems to me, that looks like less than half of the 182 acres. So where are the 132 surplus?
I'll have, this rendering was imperfect, so maybe Mr. Dyke, do you want to, Charlie? Mr. Dyke
Sure.
is going to add.
You want to? Okay. And I was going to start by saying the idea of this rendering was just to give people a general idea because we don't have specifics.
Yeah, that's correct. So the area in the blue, you're correct. The area in the blue doesn't represent the full 132 acres. Kind of the void that would be east of the blue line, above College Street, is where we estimate, from what the province is telling us, where the facility would go. In there, they require plus or minus 50 acres for their building site, which is not as big as that void is showing, right? And so our position as directed by council was in dealing with provinces, whatever you don't use, we want, right? So, but we don't know what that number is until the final siting's been done, where it's located. And the one piece the mayor did touch upon it is we've also identified the buildings as well, as we want as many buildings retained as possible. We've gone in and identified the ones and most of the buildings there that we want them to consider when they're doing the piece. But once again, that's part of their siting process, but we've put them on those we want buildings maintained as well.
Okay.
Thanks, that's helpful. Mayor Peckford, further to the loss of value.
Sorry, that's not on tonight. No, that's not. I'm sorry, sir. You've got a script. We're not on tonight, okay?
I have a question. Am I allowed to ask a question?
Does it pertain specifically
Yes, it
to the,
does.
okay?
Yes, it does. There are, based on the information that I've received, more than 35 sites of 50 acres or more located in the Ottawa area, none of which are classified.
Sir, I'm sorry, that's not on the topic tonight. I'm going to ask you to respectfully refrain.
None of which are classified as vacant agriculture.
Sir, would you please sit down? This is not why people are here tonight. So, please sit down, sir. This is not what tonight's topic is. This is not why people are here tonight.
I'll finish my question. You can choose not to answer.
Please sit down, sir.
That is related to vacant, classified as vacant agriculture. So it is the only site that if the prison is put there, we're going to lose this valuable property.
Point out where the arena is.
Considers the other sites that were deemed vacant and open.
I'm just going to say, let's just defer that. A question for another forum, another mechanism. So we just ask everyone to be respectful of why everyone else came tonight. Question was, and I don't know if you can help me out here, Gary. Question was, where's the arena? Where's the barn? I'll start here. there we are. Okay.
You should make Gary.
The question was, are we going to lose the arena? And Gary's response was, we don't think so. Okay, so the province has said they'll give us consideration to preserving the arena. Sir, did you have a question, I'm sorry, related to the topic at hand? I'll repeat it.
Hi, my name is Bill Langenberg. I used to be a part of the faculty of the college. And just to announce to you, I just finished a book about Kentville College. It's 260 pages, took me 5 years, and that farm is on it. And it'll come out in June. It's being published in British Columbia. So now coming back to the blue line here, in 1916, that farm on the east side of 44, and I call it the Armstrong Farm, was 80 acres. And the 80 acres is the blue stuff that you see on the map. Because when you drive down 44, in the past you saw the crops being grown on the east side of the highway. And it goes all the way up to Bedell. East of the blue area, close towards the 416, that was land that over time was also bought by the Ontario government, but not necessarily used by the college. So what is white in the middle there, these are the original farm buildings. So I got a lot of comments because of this upcoming meeting of tonight from jail opposition people and other people in town and stuff like this. So what I did is the original plan that correctional services made, I copied that, and then I took another photograph from the satellite and I put it on there. And I didn't know anything about dimensions. So I estimated it would be around 50 acres, that the total complex, that is the building and the fence around it and the pavement and stuff like this. And I got my Bible with me here because I've done 3 years of research on prisons and prison farms and stuff like that, but that is of another point. But that blue area is actually the arable area. So when they started the farm, everything north of College Road, they could plow that and grow crops on it. But they couldn't grow crops on the south side of College Road. So over the years, and that's because the research was done over here, because most farmland in Eastern Ontario is exactly like what's on that farm. It's stony and rocky, and we did rock picking every springtime to make it. So over time, we were able to increase the farmland all the way up to Bedell Road, but not east of the blue line there along Bedell Road. It was sandy and rocky, and they were unable. So the Ministry of Natural Resources, and you can still see it from the county road, they planted evergreens on that property because it was unarable. So it's not a huge farm, but at the 80 acres or 50 acres, it was good enough. And that's all I can tell you about the farm. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to your book coming out, and we appreciate that background. So Mayor Peckford, thank you once again. We'll let you take your seat. Oh, I'll come up first. So if you had the opportunity to hear Mayor Peckford address the chamber a few weeks ago, one of the things she put in her concluding remarks was how much she enjoys it when people call her up with good ideas. So that's what's leading to right now. Now, hopefully having clarified, what the potential is here, we're going to ask for your ideas. We're going to ask you to go into discussion groups. We could all be as one, but it's better to focus a little bit. So let me just explain what that's going to involve. We're going to have 5 different discussion groups, and they're corresponding to the tables back there. One's for agriculture and horticulture. You know, there's all kinds of ideas about food production, food security, a whole host of horticultural potential. Another one is education. Whoops, I'm spinning along here. Education and training. There's opportunities potentially for apprenticeships, for preparing our next generation, whether it's in agriculture or some other opportunity on these lands. Keep going here. Sport and recreation, I mentioned a few times. There's an arena there that we could potentially use that was formerly used for showing cattle, for showing horses, that kind of thing, plus a lot of land. There may be arts and culture interests and opportunities there. And if you've got some ideas that don't fit into any of these categories, then we have one for you also. It's another table, and if nothing doesn't fit in, we've got some great ideas, we'll go to that table. I know when I think about originally the whole idea of agriculture and horticulture, I think of the summertime, and just to remind everyone that we have 4 seasons here, so there may be winter uses and that kind of thing, whether it's in some other category and that other. Was there a question? Sorry. Sure it is. The question is, when we start these initiatives, we need money, we need resources. This is the starting point. This is the idea of we need to figure out what it is we might want to pursue. There's potential partners we can pursue. There's potential government funding. This is just the start. We don't have an answer for that question of where the money is going to come from, but unless we have an idea, we can't promote it and try and get resources. Yeah. Excellent point. Yeah. Excellent point. I mean, those are things that are going to have to, I mean, the question was, the province were the stewards of the land, had the liability, had the resources to look after it. When at some point we go through a process, correct me if I'm wrong, we will work out those issues. But the idea is, you know, if we want the land, what are we going to do with it? And this, again, is the starting point. It's just square one. So we don't have all those details worked out. Fair enough. There's a lot of work to be done ahead of this by council and moving this forward. As I heard Mr. Dyke say last week when we were planning this, you know, the first idea is the first step is to start off with an idea, then to identify who can move it forward, and then where we get the resources. James. Yeah, I don't think that's not a certainty, Mayor Peckford.
So, and again, Mr. Dyke's been very involved in these discussions. What we have asked for is that land that can be transferred, please transfer it, and please transfer it as soon as possible. And certainly the south side, I think, of College makes that case very, very clear. It's not being touched by the correctional facility at all. On the north side, I think we recognize that a 99-year lease or transfer may be the better way to go. But again, at this point, we've said, please turn over every acre you are not planning to use. The municipality has a strong interest in it. The community has a strong interest in it. We don't have to be overly ambitious about what we do with those lands right away, but we want the lands that the Ministry of the Solicitor General is not going to use. Gary, is there anything else to say there?
Our first piece was the transfer title straight to the municipality, and then the other option that they're considering is the long-term lease. By long-term, we're talking the 99-year lease, and that's within their land dispensation process itself. That's kind of the next step of the process, but both options were talked about.
I would say Minister Clark has been also equally clear that he wants land transfer above all in terms of making sure that we get access to every acre. But if a long-term lease for a parcel of the land is the only way to go, you know, obviously 99 years is a good chunk of time. So, but I think we'll have clarity on those issues within the year.
Thank you. James, follow up.
Okay, on that. here. The one thing I don't see is economic development.
So that could quite well, we wanted to come up with some discussion groups. They're not mutually exclusive. They're not, you know, they're not scientific. They're just to get people talking. Economic development is potentially a thread that runs through all of these. So that's a welcome suggestion. Okay. Question?
Thanks. You want to hover because it's a bit jail related. No, it's not specific. I want to talk about the lease a little bit.
So I'm sorry, that's not on topic tonight.
The lease is not on topic?
We're here for ideas. That's all. We're all for ideas. There's lots of details to work out, and I just really request your indulgence. Let's get on with the discussion about what we could possibly do with this. A lot of other things to be worked out.
Hi, as Mayor Peckford had mentioned, I sit on the Kentville Campus board. And for any of you who haven't looked, there's a real good master plan that was developed by the council of the day. And it really lays out what the community sees the campus providing. And from our perspective, from the campus board perspective, we would welcome the opportunity to expand what we're doing on the campus to the other side of the road and put things like education, horticulture, agriculture, community, you know, we have trail systems, all kinds of beautiful things, entertainment. We'd like to see, selfishly from our side, assist in developing that land. So I'll say that if you're looking for ideas, that's one that the campus board would be very interested in.
And we are looking for ideas, so thanks, Dermot. Okay. So as we suggested, this is a community consultation, and we really want ideas. And again, these are not meant to be rigorous scientific. It's just if you've got an idea in your head, you might find like-minded people at one of these tables. So just to let you know what we'd like to ask of you. So the assignment, the question is, what project on this land could support one of those themes? Could it support agriculture? Could support arts? Could support economic development? Could support sports and recreation? And what we've got is we've got a table, 5 different tables, each one corresponding to one of those themes. So what we'd like you to do, we got in discussion groups to get a bit of focus. And we could be asking you just to submit a piece of paper and on your way out, but discussion proves to be creative. If you get several people on the same theme and you start talking about different perspectives, that is a real result, that's a real worthwhile result of having a discussion group. So we'd like to ask you to go to one of those tables and have a discussion about what project could support that area on these lands. We will take down every single idea. There is no idea that's not worth recording. If you're done in one group and you're finished with that discussion, feel free to go on to another group and another category. The idea is here, we'd like more than a couple of words on your ideas, but we don't want 16 pages of a project plan because we're not there yet. But it's worth fleshing it out. What would be the project? What would be the benefit? What are some partners we could identify to move forward with? So we're looking for absolutely everything that's on top of mind. Asking for respectful discussion. There's no final decisions that are going to be made here tonight. So everything is fair game in terms of ideas for these lands. So we just hope that we go into the discussion groups for as many as you'd like to participate in, and enjoy the discussion, listen, and come up with some creative ideas. So we'll ask you to do that in just a minute. Pick a group to start with. We have 5 facilitators, 1 for each group. If there's questions about the process, they can answer, and they will be your scribes and make sure we write everything down to your that you're trying to get out and make sure you want to be recorded. So as I mentioned earlier, this isn't just a general discussion that what do we do with it. As was mentioned earlier, next steps. First of all, just in the same theme of tonight, if you leave here and want to have some other input, we have a dedicated email with the municipality, vision@northgrenville.ca. There's also an online survey that can be found on the municipal website, and it's more expansive, and you can do on there what you've done tonight if you want to further emphasize some of the ideas, some of the suggestions. So then what happens? Well, this is, as I said, a community consultation. Council will be reviewing all of these, get some sense of, what the most popular things are, what the most feasible things are, and move things forward, probably convening some sort of community work group, and that will be coming into the future. So this information is important. It will move on, and it'll form the foundation of what we do with these lands. So that's your assignment. Definitely want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank the staff and counselors for supporting this. And we'll let you get to your discussion groups. We'll keep, whoops. What have I done? All right, the very last slide is just a reminder of what the question is and what we hope you can give us a response to. So feel free to attend the discussion groups now. Thanks again.